Woke up in the middle of the night, or it was probably early hours of the morning, to intruders in our house.
Youth crime epidemic in North Queensland.
Crime wave across the southeast.
Escalating youth crime crisis.
The government took a conscious decision to water down the laws, and we have a generation of youth crims that know their way around it.
The Palaszczuk Labor government has let it happen. Breach of bail must be an offence.
Breach of bail, breach of bail, breach of bail.
Doesn't make sense, doesn't work.
Breach of bail, breach of bail.
That offence did not work.
The Queensland Premier has made a stunning youth crime backflip.
The government will be adopting breach of bail.
Police continue to combat youth crime.
This is what Queenslanders are now having to do. Over $1,000, that's adding to their cost of living issues.
Homes being broken into, people being stabbed, number of cars being stolen has increased.
Joyriding in a stolen car.
Stolen car.
Stolen car chase.
This government are more concerned with how things look than how they are.
We've been inundated by business owners, by residents who are absolutely fed up to the back teeth. A Premier who couldn't find 90 minutes on a weeknight to travel to Toowoomba.
Anger, fear and frustration have boiled over at a youth crime forum in Toowoomba. The Premier wasn't in attendance.
One by one, residents rose to share stories of becoming a victim, but there was one question many shared.
I would just like to ask, where is our Premier tonight?
Queensland's health crisis.
Queensland's enormous elective surgery backlog.
Critically ill people are waiting too long for treatment.
This is another example of the chaos and crisis of the Palaszczuk Labor government. Taking photos with newborn babies and elderly patients is not going to fix the Queensland health crisis.
Queensland's ambulance crisis ramps up. Wait times blow out. Ramping times are up.
Better resources, better triaging, sharing data in real time, and finally putting doctors and nurses back in charge.
A backlog in DNA testing will take years to work through.
I think Queenslanders right now can have zero confidence in the Premier, in this government.
Health Minister is once again under pressure. There are growing calls for her to resign. Expectant mothers and parents in Gladstone want Yvette Darth sacked.
Only a Labor government would provide regional Queensland with less services, less nurses, less maternity.
Myself, the opposition, the LNP, are going to continue fighting to see these core services restored.
Shockwaves are rippling through the Palaszczuk government tonight. Health Minister Yvette Darth is being forced out.
So what does this new look cabinet mean for Queenslanders?
If Anastasia Palaszczuk thinks that changing a few faces around in a reshuffle is going to save her dying government, she's got another thing coming. The clowns are still there and the circus is the same.
Queensland's housing crisis is now the worst in the country.
Housing crisis.
Housing crisis.
Queensland is a national embarrassment. Investment in social housing is continuing to shrink year by year.
Tens of thousands of Queenslanders without a roof over their head.
They are in complete chaos, lurching from crisis to crisis.
An explosion and fire at a power plant in central Queensland has sent the state's electricity network into crisis.
At the moment we've got 2 generators down at Kellogg. There's 2 down at Gladstone. Kogan is down.
The outage places increased pressure on wholesale prices.
We have consistently spoken about the need for electricity that is affordable, reliable and sustainable.
Queensland has been hit harder than any other state when it comes to power price hikes.
What is happening in Queensland is unique, and it's because of the Palaszczuk Labor government's failure to properly maintain this power plant.
Total debt jumps to $110 billion.
Despite revenue rivers of gold, Queensland has never paid higher taxes or faced services that have been worse.
Cross River Rail project is seeing massive blowouts.
This is a minister who has presided over some of the biggest budget blowouts in Queensland infrastructure history.
Multi-billion-dollar Coomera connector.
It's now 2 years delay, $600 million over budget.
For the $2.7 billion cost of the Gabba rebuild.
The priority of the government at the moment under Anastasia Palaszczuk has been all about building monuments to herself. Queenslanders were promised infrastructure across the state. I'm not just talking the stadiums and the sporting infrastructure, I'm talking about roads and rail like the Sunshine Coast Rail from Biwa to Caloundra to Kawana to Maroochydore.
Anastasia Palaszczuk has to take responsibility.
It cost $223 million to house just 730 guests.
The state's independent auditor has delivered a critical assessment.
Wellcamp was a waste. Wellcamp was a white elephant. Wellcamp is a window into the chaos and crisis of the Palaszczuk government.
In just under 500 days, Queenslanders will have a choice to make. Real delivery over announcements. Stability over chaos. Hope over fear.
Yeah.